because this was very profound to me. So, without naming names, I told somebody this story of this art strategy in action with a client of yours that had the
Yep.
dental practice.
So this client became my client very shortly after he bought into his first practice.
Hmm.
And so out of dental school, buys into his first practice after working for a couple years for somebody else, has this huge debt load, right? Scary. I mean, they've never had this kind of debt in their lives. And I started meeting with him pretty soon after that. And we taught him the principles. And like you said, we teach these same principles regardless of how much money you make or how much
Right,
money you have, because the
right,
principles are true regardless of the circumstance. And so I taught him the principles, and he was, not too smart for himself, right? Some people are too smart for themselves and they're not willing to learn, right?
right.
They have the arrival syndrome, right?
Hmm.
They've already learned everything. So he was coachable, and that's really who an ideal client for us, and I'll speak for you too, Curtis, if you don't
Yeah,
mind, that
yeah, yeah.
our ideal client is somebody who's coachable, somebody who wants to learn. Other advisors out there are saying, well, I don't want to work with somebody unless they have $500,000 in assets or $1 million in assets and they make X amount of money. You know, that's not our criteria. Our
Right,
criteria is if they're coachable, if they're
right,
willing to learn, then they can become financially free,
right.
and we can play a small role, right, in that whole process. And we love that. So that's what this client did. And as we went along, he implemented some of the strategies that fit with the principles, right?
Right, right,
One of those was he got whole life insurance, right? As a
right,
part of his protection and liquidity strategy. Notice I didn't say investment strategy. That
right,
wasn't his
right.
investment.
Whole life
So,
properly structured. Let's, you know what
yep,
I mean? And so for cash accumulation
yep.
and okay. Hmm.
So they funded it. They had been overfunding it, with paid up additions, growing the cash value. And in 2019, towards the end of 2019, they called me up and they said, "Hey, we're looking into this coaching program, and it's going to cost us $280,000."
Mm,
Okay, and this
hmm.
is to help them improve their practice, right? To learn techniques and skills and knowledge to be able to improve their practice, their dental practice. Prior to that investment that they decided to do, they were making around, I mean, they were pretty successful already, about 400,000, 400 to $500,000 of revenue that he got to keep,
Hmm.
positive cash flow from the business to himself. They were thinking of borrowing the $280,000 from a bank. And I reminded them and I said, "Hey, why not use your cash value? That's what the purpose of that is, to invest in yourself, right? In these things. And that's the real investment, is investing in yourself." And that's exactly what they were doing. So they decided to do that. They took out $280,000 in a policy loan, paid for this coaching practice in 1 year. In 1 year, they more than doubled their income
Mm,
from the dental practice. And he had a couple other associate doctors working for him prior to the investment, and now he has four dentists working for him
mm,
in the practice, and he just paid cash for another office in another location.
mm.
Okay, and so that was all from that one investment. So $280,000 turned into, just in cash, just in revenue for him, more than $500,000 additional income. So he got 100%, more than 100% return, almost a
Right.
200%
So now he's
return
cash flowing just to make over a
per
million
year.
dollars a year, a year,
Yep, per year.
every year going forward. Right.
Yep,
Now so now he's learned some stuff. So now he's bought another asset and now he's got the knowledge. So can he take that knowledge from last year's coaching program and implement it into the new asset he just bought?
absolutely. And in fact, another little piece of the puzzle is that he's going to sell part of his current practice. How crazy is that? So he's going to sell part of his current practice, which will allow him to expand even further and buy more locations.